Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson football channel. Today we have got some breaking news. It broke about 3 minutes ago officially from Chelsea Football Club on the internet. Bruce Buck has stepped down as chairman of Chelsea Football Club. Bruce Buck is an American. He's been Chelsea chairman since 2003. We're going to go through the official statement released by Chelsea Football Club, and then I'm going to give you guys my view as to whether or not I think this is a good thing. If you don't have the time to watch the whole video, then well, that would be a real shame, but I do think it's a good thing. I will give my reasons for that in a minute. Transfer news is pretty much all the same as it was, but there looks as though there are going to be some serious developments coming out. Raheem Sterling, at the moment, is Chelsea's #1 target. We've approached Manchester City. The sticking point is the price point. No shock there whatsoever, to be honest. Sterling is 27. Manchester City most likely would look to hold out for between 50 and 60 million, even though Raheem Sterling's contract runs out at the end of next season. Because it's Chelsea, and Chelsea are a competitor to Manchester City, Chelsea's bid of 35 million, City will dig their heels in for this one unless Raheem Sterling pushes significantly to move to Chelsea. The other reason I didn't talk about another story over the weekend is because I've already said this, but I'm getting a bit tired of repeating the same news. So if you're thinking that I'm just not paying attention or I don't care about making GBFC Chelsea news videos at the moment, trust me, I do. But the amount of times in recent videos I said, I know I've said this before, trying to remain somewhat entertaining, I've kind of just kept it on the back burner. We're also interested in Nathan Ake, left centre-back, used to be a Chelsea player. We sold him to Bournemouth and now we supposedly want him back from Manchester City. Well, the more City players we want, the more we can just put our thumbs up really towards the new ownership, thinking, well, if we're going to try and take players from a squad who have won 3 of the last 4 Premier League titles, then at least we're kind of looking in the right direction. Nathan Ake, decent centre-back, going in towards the prime years as a defender now. But I just wonder whether or not we're kind of looking slightly below the quality barrier than we should be, considering that Nathan Ake would be brought in as a replacement for Tony Rudiger. Yes, Nathan Ake, not first choice at Manchester City. Probably would come at a much cheaper rate than the 40 million they paid for Bournemouth. Paid Bournemouth for him. It does seem, once again, like just another name thrown into the hat of a player who is probably looking to move away to benefit his own playing time for the development of his own career. And Chelsea linked with another player who we sold a lot earlier probably than we should have done. It is what it is. Dembele news, there isn't really much to update. Sterling is the main one that we are currently working on. Jules Koundé had the surgery. There's still no update as to whether or not he's going to sign for Chelsea anytime soon. So yeah, that was 3.5 minutes and I somehow managed to summarise what could have been dragged out into 2 videos a day just for the sake of trying to make something for you lot. So we're going to focus now on the statement from Chelsea Football Club about Bruce Buck stepping down as Chelsea chairman. Just to get things clear, it isn't like Todd Boehly has gone and fired Bruce Buck, which would be a totally different ball game and a totally different can of worms for us to open in terms of a diagnostic to the situation. However, let's take a little look at the Chelsea statement. Bruce Buck stepped down as chairman of Chelsea Football Club. Pretty safe to say that was an obvious headline. Chelsea Football Club today announced that Bruce Buck, who has served as Chelsea chairman since 2003, will be stepping down from his role effective the 30th of June. He will continue to support the club as a senior advisor. Now, this could be interpreted as a good thing or a bad thing, depending on what side of the fence you sit on regarding Bruce Buck's involvement over the course of the last 19 years at Chelsea. One thing I will say about any major sporting entity, and in this case, us, Chelsea Football Club, when you go through a dramatic, significant change like the one that we've gone through in 2022, at the beginning of the year, Roman Abramovich was Chelsea owner. Thomas Tuchel was manager. The team is kicking on, ticking on, and we kind of expect everything to coast the way through. Whatever happens with the season happens, and then in the summer, we probably, with the season we just had, expect Roman to dip into the pocket and go again. It wasn't the case. External factors influenced Roman Abramovich's ability to own Chelsea, so therefore, the process of trying to find a new owner, which was also supported by Bruce Buck, Marina Granovskaia, who we'll also talk about a little bit later, to make sure, and again, this is the one where different Chelsea stakeholders have different views, make sure that the club is bought by somebody who has the best interests of Chelsea Football Club at the forefront of their vision. So as we move forward into this statement, there is a load of waffle about how great Chelsea men's and women's teams have been. We all know that. We're an incredibly successful football club. It then goes on to say about commercial revenues and how that increased significantly. I won't bore you with all of this details, but we all know that over the course of the last 19 years, Abramovich, Bruce Buck as chairman, Chelsea have made massive strides. We went from being a club that was winning the odd FA Cup here and there, challenging for Champions League places, beating Barcelona and then losing to Barcelona, hammering Galatasaray, I think it was in 99 or 2001 or something along those lines. And then all of a sudden, we have got 2 European trophies, countless other trophies, Premier League titles to boot. Absolutely say whatever you want about Bruce Buck and whether or not he's the right man to chair Chelsea Football Club for the future. He's not there anymore. He's stepped down, but there's no denying that during his time, yes, it wasn't his money, it was Mr. Abramovich's money, but Chelsea have become incredibly successful, be it on the field with trophies and financially off it as well, including Cobham. Now this is the statement. I'm proud to have helped Chelsea realise great success on the pitch and make a positive impact in the community, said Buck. Now is the right time to step down and let new ownership build on the strong foundations we have in place. The owners have a compelling vision for Chelsea's future, and I look forward to helping them achieve it in this new role alongside our incredible staff, players, coaches and supporters. Bruce has led Chelsea Football Club to the highest levels of international and domestic football, while also developing one of the most active social responsibility projects in sport, said Todd Boehly, Chelsea Football Club co-controlling owner. We thank Bruce for his service and his commitment to the club. Now, I'm going to make a bold prediction straight out the gate of reading Bruce Buck's comments and then Todd Boehly's comments about Bruce Buck. I would not be surprised if off the back of Bruce Buck stepping down as Chelsea chairman, Marina Granovskaia, I wouldn't be surprised if she also decided to step down at Chelsea Football Club. Now, there's been a lot of back and forward between fans and different stakeholders of Chelsea as to whether or not Bruce Buck and Marina have done a good job at Chelsea Football Club. Particularly in the fans' case, especially in June and July every single year, there is a huge focus on these board members at Chelsea because when the team aren't playing, or when the team are playing, we don't really care so much about what goes on behind the scenes because we're more focused on whether Chelsea win, lose or draw on the football pitch every time they step out. When it's transfer season and we see the beginning of the transfer window that we've had here where not bought anyone yet, we've lost a load of players and we've got kind of a mediocre squad who with an amazing manager and we don't really know how it's all going to piece together and how we're going to bridge these gaps that we keep on talking about. I do get concerned that this kind of news could even halt further Chelsea's slow progress so far in the transfer market. At the moment, I think we are a couple of weeks away from seeing a proper meltdown in the Chelsea community about who we've bought in, or in this case, who we haven't bought into the football club. Chelsea, as we have heard from Fabrizio Romano, other reputable Chelsea journalists, are doing business behind the scenes right now. We're trying to work on bringing in the right players. We have heard many a story about how Todd Boehly wants to go with an analysis, data-driven analysis approach to signing players in the future, which has worked so well for clubs like Liverpool, who don't have the same financial muscle as a Manchester City. They go out and they research very heavily into the actual players that would best fit Jurgen Klopp's team. We know that the long-term vision, or part of that long-term vision that we've heard about from Todd Boehly, is that is the way Chelsea will look to operate in the future. The last video I made, I was discussing the comments about FFP, and you just start to wonder now if Chelsea are going to have to do a cleansing of the board. I do think this is a good thing. I think a lot of the methods of negotiation, a lot of the work that's been done away from footballers and signings has been excellent. Chelsea as a club within the community locally have been absolutely brilliant. Financially, stable. Yes, we lost Abramovich, and that kind of does change all of those financial recognizable assets, I guess you could say, as to how we manage it at the club. But I think the fact that Bruce Buck has stepped down, 19 years, new ownership, is getting on as well. Let's be honest. I do think that now is the absolute right time for Bruce Buck to step down as Chelsea chairman. When new owners come in, yes, we don't want to change that on-the-field mentality of being winners, being serial trophy winners and contenders. But I do think that with Boehly, it is now the time to fully back and support. And I do wonder if a lot of the new ways that Boehly is looking to run the club as the owner could well have forced Bruce Buck into thinking, it's not quite Roman Abramovich, it's not quite the same, it's my time to leave. Now, he's left us in a relatively good spot when we look across the period of the 19-year history that he's been there. But I do think now, with this new ownership, it would be a good time for Chelsea to change everything. Maybe Marina goes as well. Maybe this means that we bring in a new director of football. Maybe this means that we are not so stingy in the transfer market, leaving it late and ending up with the residue that the other big clubs in Europe don't want come the end of the summer, which has been my concern in the past couple of weeks. Let me know your thoughts on the news about Bruce Buck leaving Chelsea and stepping down as chairman. Will still be a senior advisor. No one really knows ever what that means. Could that be like what food is in the canteen, or who we should sign, or who we should keep employing to run the club in the future? We don't know yet. We'll see exactly what happens. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for your patience. I hope you can understand, and I hope you appreciate that I don't just want to keep filtering the same old crap down your throats about, we're interested in Dembele, we're interested in Koundé. Thank you for the support. Subscribe to GBFC if you are new. When there is news to talk about, you bet your bottom dollar I'm your man. See you guys later. Come on, you Blues.